You are now listening to
Chakras and Shotguns. Welcome to Chakras and Shotguns, the podcast that guides you on your journey of spiritual development and personal preparedness. My name is Jenn. I'm a lawyer, yoga instructor, and lover of all things wellness.
And I'm Mik, a marketer, energy healer, and prepper. So I think a lot of us can relate to this. Has there been a situation that's coming up in your life, something that's on the horizon, and you just can't get it out of your head? You're planning, over planning a little bit, maybe thinking through all the different options, and your mind's just constantly going. Or maybe it's something that already happened, and you're playing it back in your head, and you're thinking, what could I have done differently? And it's just this unending cycle of thoughts. Well, that's what we're talking about today. We're getting into overthinking and how incessant thinking can rob us of our joy.
But before we get into that, we want to remind you guys of the availability of sessions with us. So I do tarot reading. I do human design readings, especially if you've never had your human design chart read. Mik does amazing energy healing sessions as well as Akashic record sessions, which are fantastic. So you can book any of those sessions on our website, chakrasandshotguns.com.
Yeah, /readings.
/readings. I'm overthinking.
Don't overthink it.
I was like, is it /readings? Chakrasandshotguns.com /readings. Definitely check it out.
All right. Well, let's begin as we always do with a breathwork meditation to put us into a mindful place.
All right. So I don't know if I've ever done this on the show before. If I have, sue me. No, I'm just kidding. But this is a tactic that I like to use when I'm trying to meditate and the thoughts are going. So we'll get into that and we'll just find a little stillness and see if we can quiet our minds down.
Love it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So go ahead, find a comfortable seat. You can always lie down. And let's begin. I think for this one, we should definitely do something grounding. So hand on your heart, hand on your belly, just hands face down somewhere on your body. Go ahead and flicker your eyes closed. Take a deep inhale in through your nose, expanding your belly. Open your mouth, exhale, let it go. Let's do that again. Inhale through your nose. Open your mouth. Exhale. Let it go. Let's do one more together. Inhale through your nose. Seal your lips closed. Exhale back out through your nose. So as you start to find stillness, maybe the thoughts are already popping up. The grocery list, the to-dos, the arguments, the frustrations, the random questions. And I like to think of those thoughts as just a channel that's always running in my brain. Can you find the volume button? Depending on what generation you're in, maybe it's a dial, maybe it's a remote control. But start to turn that volume down. So I visualize myself taking that control and just turning it down slowly and allowing those thoughts to quiet. Allow yourself to sit in this space of stillness, of really conscious presence. If a thought bubbles up, that's okay. Meditation is the practice of coming back to the practice, of returning from the thoughts. Pay attention to your body, whatever sensations that you may be feeling as you allow yourself to sit in this exact moment in time. Take a deep inhale in through your nose. Open your mouth, stick out your tongue, exhale, lion's breath. Start to wiggle your fingers, your toes. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and join us for the rest of the show.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I will say this though, I did have a thought that bubbled and started to kind of like, I don't know, snowball, I guess.
Okay.
It's a silly thought. But you talking about the dial, right? And I was like, are our kids gonna know what a dial is?
Yeah. I was like, I don't want to crack a joke in the middle of the breath work, but I always think of it as like a knob.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, everybody doesn't think about it as a knob.
That's wild.
Some people are like,
man, millennials, we're the bridge generation. We remember the old stuff and know how to work the new stuff, but
mashing that button.
Yeah, man.
The youth.
Anyway, all right. Let's get into the main topic. I think it makes sense to first kind of start with just a basic definition.
Love a definition.
You know. So Merriam-Webster, they define overthinking as thinking about or analyzing something in a way that is more harmful than helpful. I think it's a pretty good definition.
Yeah.
How do you think about it?
I think about it, I call it swirling. And really swirling to the point of paralysis.
Yeah.
That like you can't move. Like you can't go into something. You can't. It robs you of, and we'll get into this, of like, and you know, we touched on this a little bit in the breath work, of like time, of like being present in time. So you're not only not being present, like for me, it's, I can't stop and focus on a conversation.
Yeah.
I can't experience quality time with our kids, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like somewhere else.
For sure.
And I'm not presently in the moment. A lot of people also call it as like too many tabs open. If you're thinking about like a web browser and, you know, and I'm real bad about this. I'll have like 3 windows with 10 tabs each in real life on my computer, and my computer will start going shh, like it's about to take off and go to the moon. Yeah. But like mentally, that's what you're doing. Like you're thinking about, oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to call this person. I got to pick up a gift for that person. Oh, I really, you know, this person's been on my mind. I've been meaning to call them. Oh, my boss wants me to do this.
Yeah.
I got to finish that laundry. You know, I really want to take a nap. What time did I go to bed last night?
Yeah.
Did I get enough steps in? Am I going to exercise? Well, when am I going to exercise? When could I possibly exercise? I don't have enough time. It's just, that's.
I think it's even worse for our generation in particular. I think a lot of us are operating with undiagnosed ADHD. Some of us were diagnosed. And so I think you add on, like, there's this constant mental stimulation that we're being thrown at us, right? Like if you look at social media, our attention is for sale, right? Like that's the whole point, is to how much time can you spend on this app. And so they're incentivizing you to be in these spaces, and advertisements are everywhere, and their goal is to grab your attention so they can sell you something. So we're constantly in mental stimulation, and then you add on the fact that there's a decrease in the ability for us to hold attention on any one thing. It just creates this ping-ponging of stimulation and thoughts that's happening in our mind, right? I also try to think about like what is normal thinking and what is overthinking, like kind of like creating that delineation. And because I mean, I think, you know, we want to think. We don't want people just to not think, right? Like there's a certain baseline level, right? Like
Aretha told us.
Mama tell you think for yourself. Don't just follow all your little friends. But I think, you know, at a basic level, I think our minds are a tool. I think when we've become overly reliant on our mind, the mind is meant to, you know, process information and kind of help us make decisions.
Yeah.
But we've kind of left that program running in the background too much to where now it's just constantly pulling in things. And I don't know, I think after a decision is kind of made or a situation is played out, we need to like learn to kind of let those things go and not think about them, or like it's like thinking to make the decision so that you've made it, but then like it's the after effect where you're over analyzing it and reanalyzing it and playing with it again in your mind to the point where you don't stop. And that program is kind of still running. Is to me what overthinking is really about, right?
Yeah. So a couple of things that stood out to me in what you were talking about, Mik, is for me personally, I'm a dweller. I live in the past. I love to rehash old situations, old conversations. I am a little bit also of is this a daydreamer? It's also not in the present, but it's not in the real either. I'll be like, I'll play out like I'm on my own episode of What Would You Do?
Yeah.
Based off of like something I might have seen, or like, what would I do if somebody walked up on me and said this? And I'll practice out this whole, like, that's not... Is it mental illness? No, it's not. I hope not. I'm trying to get in with my therapist this week anyway. But anyways, the point is that that's not in real life.
Yeah, we're not in present
either.
Yeah.
We're not in the present. That's mental energy that I'm expending. That's not important. Later in the episode, we'll get into a little bit of the human design aspect of it, because what you were talking about of how we over rely on our mind is a big component of human design.
Absolutely.
And the last thing I'll say is you've seen this wave in wellness recently of getting out of thinking and getting into feeling. Get out of your head. Of this reconnection with some of the more like natural movement. Like, I'll say it like this. I have not gotten better at fighting off colds and little bugs or whatever since being on a wellness journey and being more like knowledgeable about different herbal remedies. I don't think I've gotten better because of that. I've gotten better because I'm more attuned with myself and I don't ignore my body when it's telling me something's not right.
Yeah.
That first, like, I'll get a slight itch and I'll be super thirsty. It's time for oil and oregano. It's time for all my little tinctures and whatnot. And so then I don't end up getting a full-blown cold.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I'm necessarily healthier. I'm just listening better.
Yeah, no, it's getting out of your head and more into your body, right?
Yeah. Because like before, it would be, oh, I have a runny nose and a cough. And I think I must be sick. And it was like, because I was so up here, I was completely ignoring everything else below my brain.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, that there are often clues and there are kind of pings that our body is giving us. And a lot of times we have not been taught how to listen and feel those things, right? And so I think that me as well, in this journey that we've been on, I've been able to just pick up more on these little, messages that are kind of happening biologically, and be able to respond to them to help me prevent, sickness and stuff. So no, it's a great point.
So we talked a little bit about the past, or like also like how we're not feeling our bodies. Also the future, right? I think Mik does this more than I do. I'm in a way back machine.
Yeah. I think my cross to bear is that I spend a lot of time analyzing the future and playing out different scenarios and like, okay, if we're doing this on this day, you know, I'm planning out different routes and thinking through like, well, what if this happens and what if that happens and what if the weather's bad and what if the kids are hungry? Like I'm like Dr. Strange. I got my mind my mind closed and I'm calculating all the different millions of scenarios, but I don't have his powers, so it's just
to know which one to go with.
Well, he can do it really fast. I'm doing it at normal speed.
I think it's also something that'll come up in different modalities. So in Enneagram, it'll come up in a lot of other places. Is then what that looks like is I'm in the past, so I'm dealing with a lot of like regret and guilt and shame, and then you're worried about the future, so you're dealing with a lot of fear and like these very dense, low vibrational emotions that like I can't change anything that's already happened, right? If it's something I need to take accountability for, right? Sure. That's different. But like I can't change anything that's happened. Usually I'm thinking about things that like happened to me and that maybe I didn't have the insight now that I have, you know, that I could have changed that situation, but I can't change any of that. Yeah. So that's not serving me.
For sure.
My body also doesn't know that it's not 1997. So that's not serving me, right? Yeah. You're in fear mode, which isn't going to help you necessarily take the best action. For sure. It might keep you stuck from moving moving forward. Yeah. And like that will just, I mean, fear is just like a courage killer, a confidence killer. Like it's not going to help you be your best self.
And you kind of alluded to it a little bit there, but when you're in those spaces, either the past or in the future, your body is producing chemicals and hormones to respond to what's going on in your brain, right? So like when I'm experiencing that fear of what's coming up, my cortisol levels are starting to rise, right? The stress hormone is starting to happen, right? And so you're putting your body in states that it doesn't need to be in. If you were just in the present moment, you wouldn't be experiencing the same stress levels that you are when you're kind of in that mind space of that overthinking.
Yeah.
So you might be thinking, I can't help it. Some of these thoughts just pop into my head. I don't know what to do with it, right?
I love that it's like, you're doing all of this thinking. You might be thinking.
So I feel like a TikTok influencer a little bit right now. There's a book that is really popular on TikTok. I actually bought it.
Okay.
It's called, they got me. They did get me. It was right. They was like, this dude right here be overthinking. We're gonna get him. So the book is titled "Don't Believe Everything You Think." It's written by Joseph Nguyen, and I wanted to share just a couple of lines from the book. Kind of throughout the episode, I'll kind of put a couple in, but really one line where he talks about the difference between thoughts and thinking that kind of stood out to me. He says, "Thoughts are the energetic, mental raw materials from which we use to create everything in the world." Right. So thoughts are generally a good thing. We need to think and to be able to come up with things, right? But then he says, thinking is actively engaging with the thoughts in your mind. You don't have to engage with each thought in your mind, but when you do, that is thinking, right? So we get thoughts all the time. Thousands of thoughts come into our head a day.
Yeah.
And some of them we choose to engage with, some of them we choose not to engage with, right?
Some of them are intrusive, and some of them we should leave them where they are.
I can see it happening with our children sometimes.
Oh, yeah. The intrusive thoughts are wild around here. Let's put hand sanitizer in my eye.
Oh, yeah. That was a fun day. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's a good delineation between thoughts and thinking. So it's okay to have thoughts. We have thoughts, you know, we can write down the good ones, you know, and save them for that moment of inspiration that we may need for our work. But when we're spending a lot of time engaging with those thoughts, that's when we get into that thinking and overthinking.
Yeah. That makes me think of one of my favorite yoga instructors. He always would say, it usually was like in the beginning of class when he was really trying to get us centered before we started the movement portion of, he always rattles off everything really fast, but he was like, bring your attention to your third eye, the space in between your eyebrows, and watching the thoughts that may pop up. And he would always go, unconcerned, like unconcerned, like they're just like, let them just drive by.
Dismiss them with love, as I say.
You're thought watching.
Yeah.
Which I never finished Untethered Soul, but I feel like that's a part of that.
And there's that Netflix show. It was about meditation. I forgot who the sponsorship was or what the title of it was, but it gave the analogy of the roadway. Like there's a roadway that's like your mind, and there's cars going by, and the cars are thoughts, and you just kind of like, as you're meditating, you want to just allow them to move on down the road without stopping them and trying to engage with them. Right. So it's just like imagine yourself watching traffic, and you're not trying to engage with it at all. You just let the cars go. Another way that I like to think about this, you mentioned the third eye chakra. This is Chakras and Shotguns.
Hey.
And when I talk about it in my sound baths, the third eye is all about our intuition. It's our ability to perceive things that are unseen. The crown chakra is our energy center that allows us to connect in with the divine or with God, whichever you choose to believe in. And that is our way of connecting when we're in prayer or in meditation, right? And so when we're thinking and spending a lot of mental energy in our head, right, and having these overactive crown and third eye chakras, it's blocking some of those abilities that we have, the ability to access our intuition and to perceive those things and to be able to receive divine wisdom, right? So the more we can allow those chakras to be balanced, the more overall we'll be, and I think the more well in terms of wellness and spiritual wellness will be if we can kind of slow down some of that mental chatter.
So going back to the breath work a little bit, the second part of my dial button visualization is that I turn up my antenna to receive and to receive downloads and information and like my clairaudience and my claircognizance. And would highly, recommend playing around with that if you want to find a little bit more comfort, like calling your angels, your spirit guides, like, come in with the intention of like you're protected. If it makes you a little nervous, because I used to be like, well, what am I calling in? Because I used to watch a lot of horror. So but
not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But how about we record a longer meditation where you walk people through the full turning up and opening up your intuition, and that's available to our patrons on Patreon.
Yes, we can do that. Thank you for giving me something to do live on the air. On the air.
I think people would be interested in that.
No, I will definitely do that.
And the thought just popped into my head. I decided to engage with it. So
okay. I love getting in the booth. Gonna drop some beats.
All right, do it.
But also, so there's that. But then also the human design component. If you look at your human design chart, there are the two shapes at the top that are right on the head. I think one's like slightly above the head and one's right on the third eye. So that's your head and your ajna. And for a lot of people, like the vast majority of people, I think 70% of people have the head undefined or open, which means you're receiving information all the time. Like you can consider it conditioning. People who have it defined are a little bit more like, I take in what I want to take in. Yeah. But like you're just kind of open. Yeah. Just think of it as being open. Ajna, I think 53% of people have it open. So like a lot of people have it in some type of non-definition in human design terms. So those two centers together create your mind. And so if all of that is kind of undefined or open, completely open, then that means you're taking in a lot of information, and if you're in your not self, like if you're not in your highest self or your best alignment in human design terms, then you're trying to decipher it all. And like, oh, these are questions. I have to answer all of these questions. It's like, you don't have to do that. It's the work for people with those centers open or undefined is to say like, I can take in what I want to take in. I can be inspired. I can let it go. I can put it down. I can put it to the side. I'm not beholden to everything that wants to bombard me with a thought. So
I got you.
I like that. We're trying to get into the energetics of like the chakras and human design works with the chakra system. Absolutely. And so energy centers and all of those things.
Yeah. I mean, Jen already mentioned it once, but if you haven't gotten a human design chart reading, you should definitely holler at her. She is really gifted at human design. So Just wanted to plug her real quick.
Thank you. But for different types in human design, you have different guides and rules or suggestions rather on how to like make decisions. And for the vast majority of people, it is not about thinking.
Yeah.
There are some types, but they are very rare. I have not encountered them yet. But for the vast majority of people, it's like a gut instinct. It's a spleen instinct. It's listening to your emotions. It's you know, it's not about like pros and cons and making a list.
For sure. I want to go back to that book that I mentioned. So Don't Believe Everything You Think. There is another line I wanted to bring up, and it said in the book, the moment we think about our thoughts is when we begin to get taken on an emotional roller coaster.
Hey.
And I think that's what I have experienced firsthand. And I think a lot of other people can kind of relate to that.
Yeah. For sure. Especially if you ever experience anxiety, to any degree, really, right? Because it's questioning what's going to happen next. It's, all of these different things. Or, we talked about this already about just like, what already happened, what's going to happen next, what I did, what I shouldn't have done, what choices did I make?
Yeah, definitely.
What choice to make next, when to leave this job, when to marry this person, when to break up with this person, should I have kids? And then that's just in your life.
Absolutely.
In your life. We're recording this on election day. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, are the aliens coming?
Are they coming?
Are they going to save us from ourselves? AI. Why does ChatGPT know all of this shit? Like you can just, you could just keep going
and going. So a couple of thoughts. One, Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. If you've not read that book, definitely highly recommend that one. It basically talks about how we suffer when we are either like Jenn, spending time dwelling on the past, or like me, worrying about the future.
I was like, wait, am I catching a stray?
No.
Oh, wait, we already talked about this.
We already talked about this. Dang.
I was like, whoa, I'm about to be like Neo. Hold on.
Defensive much over here. No, so I wanted to recommend that book for sure. And then I wanted to just share a personal story. I think you were talking about like how there's all these decisions that people are making. And I think back to, when we had first gotten engaged, and we were living in different cities. So I was living in Chicago, Jim was in Dallas, and we were trying to decide where we were going to live after we got married. And Jim, being a lawyer, was barred in Texas, so she would have had to take a new bar exam to move to Illinois. That was like a big consideration.
Yeah.
But Chicago was fun.
Chicago was hella fun.
Shout out to Chicago. I had a ton of good times there. Like a lot of friends out there.
Is that still my favorite American city? I think so.
Yeah, Chicago's dope. So if anybody's listening to Chicago, shout out to the Chi. And so we were basically, in situation where I've been living in Chicago for a couple of years. I had a pretty good network there. Job was cool. And Dallas was closer to home though. I'm from Houston. Her people are all in Dallas. So it was like, my mom was like, yeah, come on down to Texas. Come on back. And so there was all these like things we were kind of weighing. And so I remember I spent several nights probably not getting enough sleep thinking about, okay, like this is a big decision. Where are we going to live? Like there's tax implications. There are, where we're going to, like rent implications, right? It's much more expensive to live in Chicago versus in Dallas. How is she going to figure, job stuff out? So there was all these calculations I was trying to make. Could I get a job in Dallas? I didn't know, right? And I spent a ton of time thinking about it until finally, it wasn't until we had a conversation with my parents' church pastor. It was kind of the church I was in prior to leaving Houston, but they had changed pastors, so I didn't grow up with him, kind of being the pastor. But we had like a marriage counseling session with him. He ended up being the one who married us. And he was like, just pick the place where you feel the most peace. Like pick the decision that you feel the most peace about. And I was like, okay. And it just kind of hit me one day. I was like randomly walking and I was like, Dallas is the move. I just feel at peace with it. And
But you tried to ignore it.
I did try to ignore it. I was trying to think about it some more. I was trying to overthink it. Like, I got to think about it some more. I got to think about it some more. I got to think about it some more. But then it hit me again. I was like, all right, well, I guess they didn't. I called you and I was like, I think I'm moving to Dallas. Like, this is the move.
Mind you, I was ready to move to Chicago. I was like, I'm about to go on a little Midwest adventure. And because I'd only ever lived in Texas, different cities in Texas, but I had never left the state to live.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll take another bar.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
And you were like, no, I'm going to move to Dallas. I said, huh? Because Mik was not excited about moving to Dallas, okay?
Not at all.
I was the only exciting thing about Dallas.
Yeah, basically.
And he had visited multiple times.
Yeah, I had many, many weekends spent in Dallas.
He did not care. A true Houstonian through and through.
Yes, indeed.
And I said, huh? You said, yeah, Dallas is where we're supposed to be. And I said, okay. I know where the grocery store is. I'm very familiar. I know how to get around town.
It was good to us. Dallas was good to us until we moved out here. But yeah.
Look at you. Yeah. Look at that growth.
I was ready to get out of there when we got out of there. But
since moving away from Dallas and talking to people who are not from Texas, and I realized there's not really a lot of reasons to go to Dallas. Or Houston.
Okay. I think there's reasons to go to Houston, but I mean, whatever. We ain't got to go into all that. We ain't got to do that. We ain't got to do that right now. That's not the point of this episode right now. Look.
Okay. We'll talk about this offline. Okay. Other than work, people are like, oh, I was there for work, but I didn't really get to see much. And I think that was like a common thing. But yes, I'm glad you picked the decision that gave you the most peace.
Do you have a story you want to share about overthinking, or do you want to keep talking about Houston and Dallas?
Overthinking is my life, so it's really hard to cherry pick one situation over the other. I really was thinking about this before the episode, and guess what? I started to overthink it.
Oh, okay.
So instead, I had some fun facts.
Okay, give me some facts.
Fun facts. Okay, so the amount of information that we are exposed to, they were able to measure it in a day. We are exposed to about 74 gigabytes of information, which is equivalent to 16 movies.
Yeah.
So all the pings and the DMs, like for our daughter's school, we are contacted on probably, text, phone, app, WhatsApp, email.
Yeah.
So like 5 different ways the school or the school district is getting in contact with us. Thankfully, our other daughter's school is only one way.
Yeah.
Because there's no parents WhatsApp, thank God.
Yeah.
So just think about that. We're not talking about work. We're not talking about Mik and I have multiple social media accounts for all of our different businesses, multiple email accounts, other things that we're doing. Our friends are texting us. We're scrolling on TikTok. Our parents are calling. There's the group chats and the shared photo albums. Like just...
Nah, I'm laughing because our youngest at the daycare she goes to, some of the parents, I feel like they want to make connections with us because our kid's kind of the cool kid at school.
She's super cool.
And they're like, I'm sure they want to like do play dates and stuff, but like every time they try to like engage me too long, I'm like, I don't have space. I'm like, I'm it's like I eject out of the conversation. Gotta go. Like I just don't have the room to manage more relationships. I just don't.
So in contrast, those 74 gigabytes of information, 500 years ago, that would be the amount of information a highly educated person was exposed to in their lifetime. And like through reading and stories and like maybe like theater.
Yeah, Pop and Mima, they just was chilling.
Like...
They ain't have to deal with all this information coming in.
Or it's just like reading. I think they made the equivalent of 74 gigabytes. Like if you were to do it, if you're thinking like pre-internet, it's reading 4 newspapers front to back every day.
That's 74 gigs?
I think so.
Okay.
That's a lot. I'm going to put that article in the show notes, but...
That's, I guess 4 newspapers. You're talking about like all the sections?
Yeah.
Okay. That's crazy.
That's wild. So... when I think about overthinking, I think, yes, like we're dwelling on the past or we're thinking about the future or whatever, but like also just the amount of input. Like I, as a mom and an entrepreneur, I'm constantly on the brink or past the level of acceptable stimulation. Like I'm overstimulated. People are touching me. People are texting me. People are emailing me. People are calling me. Did you get my email? And it's just like, it can be a lot. And I feel like that also can impact, like I'm trying to just think through this grocery list and then someone texts me and then I get distracted. Or like there's a common meme where it's like, sorry, I didn't respond to your text. I read it at a red light and then the light turned green and that thought was gone. And I got to text my cousin back right now. He texted me a week ago. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about in the realm of overthinking and all of the things that we can think about, and please don't overthink about all of the things that we can overthink about, is that we can overthink about what others think about us and how we're perceived. That's very near and dear to my heart.
Common practice.
But somebody said, if you struggle with this, I would challenge you to change that. Every time you walk into a room, if people are looking at you, say like, oh my gosh, they think I'm so beautiful. They think I'm amazing. They think I'm so smart. Like walk away from conversations and be like, they think that I am brilliant.
Yeah.
And the guy finished up and was like, if that sounds crazy, you're already doing that.
Yeah.
But like to the negative.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm so dumb. Like, oh, I must have something in my teeth. Why are they looking at me like this? Oh, they think I'm uncool or I'm not funny or I'm, an idiot or ugly or whatever. All of the negative things that you can think about how others are perceiving you. Energetically is kind of interesting too, because like if you're thinking that, maybe you're projecting that and maybe you might see how people shift around you of like, are you getting the energy that you're putting out?
Yeah, no. Yeah, so that makes me think about, I think it was Shaman Durek's book, Spirit Hacking, where he talks about how we live in this culture that's very self-deprecating. Like he relayed this story where he was at this like dinner party or something and he was talking to people and everyone was just kind of like, talking about their jobs and like in a very negative way and like kind of how they exist. And it's like commonly accepted, almost like it projects humility, but like it's really like self-deprecating in a way that can just put a lot of negative energy on yourself. And so I think that infiltrates our psyche to the point where we default to that negative framing of however when someone's looking at us, right? They must think I look weird or I'm not attractive or whatever.
I'm out of place or I don't belong.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about how we can overcome overthinking. What are some ways? Let's mindfulness meditation. I think that's probably one that I think is super important, one that we are big advocates of. I think when you are in a space where you're focusing just on your breath, or maybe you have a mantra that you like to repeat, that helps to bring you into the moment and into the space. I like to just literally, I'll say for the next 20 breaths, I'm just going to focus on the inhale and exhale. And I will like over exaggerate my inhale and exhale just to keep my mind focused on just that inhale, exhale, right? And, sometimes we like to have agendas with our meditation. I want to tap in. I want to talk to my ancestors. I want to, visualize something or manifest something. And, that can kind of spin us into different spaces. But I think a really good practice is to just keep it very simple and basic and focus on your breath to stay present in the moment. I'd also add doing things that bring you joy can help to limit overthinking. I actually had ChatGPT recently create a little exercise regimen for me. Highly recommend doing that. Basically, I told her, I said, hey, look, I only got between 20 and 30 minutes to do 3 workouts a week. Design me something that I can do with body weight and dumbbells because that's all the equipment I have right now. And I'm not a member of a gym currently. And it was like, cool, boom. 10 seconds, I had a whole little workout regimen.
You're whooping your ass.
It is. It's great though. I'm enjoying it. It is definitely whooping my ass right now, but I'm enjoying it. So, and I'm not overthinking. I'm focused on doing them burpees and doing each exercise. I'd also say spending time in nature, and any type of creative activity, whether that's painting, sculpting. I recently got into a little clay sculpting, you know what I mean? So that's been cool. So doing things like that, I think are great.
Okay.
Yeah. What about gratitude journaling? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. That helps you focus on the positive things that have already happened. So when I was working at the law firm and my anxiety was at an all-time high, I was really bad about like replaying all the conversations that I had that day. And I didn't have a gratitude practice, but like that would have kept me focused on what good came out of the day, right? Instead of focusing on like, oh, this was a really awkward interaction, because those people were awkward. It wasn't me. You know, I could have focused on my paycheck and
gratitude for that.
Gratitude. Okay. The gowns, beautiful gowns that I got to wear. No, I'm just kidding. Like, you know, the freedom that I had to do the things that I wanted to do, or the great lunch that I had by myself without them talking to me about duck hunting. You know, things like that. I've moved on from that situation. I'm out of the past.
Yeah, the last one I'll mention is sound baths. So I do a lot of sound baths. I'm a sound healer. Sound baths can change our brainwaves, right? It puts us into different states, particularly theta brainwave state, which is a really deep relaxation where we are. It's kind of that space where you're kind of about to fall asleep but haven't fallen asleep quite yet. And in that space, it's really hard to be overthinking. Like, you're just deeply relaxed and you're in this state of just kind of calm and oneness with yourself. And so I love being able to help people reach that state through the beauty of sound. I actually, for the last 5 months, have been doing a series of sound baths. The title is Get Out of Your Head, a sound bath for overthinkers. I'm even wearing my little sweatshirt. I don't know if you can see it right here clearly on the camera, but these are available on chakrasandshotguns.com if you are interested in copping a Get Out of Your Head sweatshirt. And if you're in LA, come through to the next sound bath.
Just going back quickly to the mindfulness that you suggested and that 74 gigabytes of information that we're getting.
For sure.
I try and take things pre-digital to the extent that I can. So like I've started doing a challenge of not picking up my phone for the first hour of the day. So when I wake up, I try not to look at my phone at all.
For sure.
And I find that I'm more efficient. And I'm not like getting swept away with like scrolling or anything like that. I'm not immediately trying to respond to somebody else's needs.
Sure.
Like, again, that fight or flight, like kicking in of like, oh, this person emailed me, I got to get back to them. Da, da, da. So I have actually really enjoyed it. It was a tip from Jeff Bezos, but whatever. He has people that just like make his life run, so he can afford to do that. But it's actually been very nice. But like, also, it made me think of this other video I saw where they were like, mindfulness did not exist until the internet or until like smartphones, because if you were on the bus stop, you were on the bus stop.
Yeah, you were mindful. you were in the moment.
Even in like 2006.
Yeah, no, seriously.
I had maybe Snake.
Yeah.
On my Motorola Razr, like there was nothing on my phone.
Brought a book with you know.
To get on the internet on a Motorola Razr was an astronomical cost. For what? Nah. There was nothing on there. There was nothing good. So like, you know, you would be at the doctor's office. If you didn't have a book, you didn't have a magazine, you were sitting there counting ceiling tiles. So sometimes like when I find myself in those types of spaces, like if I'm picking up one of my kids and they're taking a long time to come out of their classroom or whatever, I fight the urge to get on my phone or like play a little game or like scroll or something or read a book, because I read a lot on my phone. I'll just like look at the clouds or I'll watch who's coming in, which honestly you should be watching your surroundings anyway. But just trying to find ways to like take myself back to the long, long years ago before I was born in the 80s. Because I was born in 2000. When I take myself way back to the years that you remember.
Okay. I'm listening. I'm just waiting for that.
Waiting for me to land a plane. Just taking yourself back to that time, because we weren't taking in so much information. And so it can take a lot off of you. You're like, oh, I forgot to get to that person. I forgot to do this. I forgot to do that. And just like of like clearing all of that out of your head.
No, that's real.
Love you.
Like acting like she never watched the VHS before.
What's that?
Exactly.
Is that a high school? Venice High School? No? Oh.
Anyway, guys, that is the show. Friendly reminder to check out chakrasandshotguns.com/readings. You can book a human design or tarot card reading with Jenn. I also have breathwork sessions available that I recently added. If you haven't listened to that, the breathing exercise, breathing episode that we did a while back, you can do a remote breathwork session with me, as well as Akashic Records, or an energy healing session. So yeah.
All right. And finally, if you're loving the show, please give us 5 stars, subscribe wherever you watch or listen.
Namaste.